Questions? No questions?
Not one question.
Not a single question. Wow. Going once.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have more of a question for the audience and probably the commercial audience that I think might benefit all of the companies here, which is if you had these predictive models and you had your data organized this way, what is the number one pressing question that you would ask of the data?
That's a great question. So if you had access to any one of the products that was talked about, what's the number one question you would ask the data?
I spent 4 years at Tesla, and I would say, where are my parts? Like sourcing, direct materials. I used to source probably 1,000 body components, and my job was mostly to manage supplier relationships, but I spent probably 60% of my time chasing parts. And that has limited value add, but a lot of it was just we didn't know where things were. And with, that was just one team of many. And, there's probably 30,000 parts in the car, but where are the parts? When are they going to get here? Are they delayed? Because we can almost always solve it. We almost always solve the shortage issue, but it didn't need to be a crisis every day, which it was.
Did that mic die?
You check.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. I'd say it's going to be, how quickly are you going to be able to save me money versus how much additional money will it take me to invest in your product up front versus what everybody has already talked about today, which is I already have people on a team that I'm already paying, and thank you for your idea. We'll find out a way in order to figure this out somewhat on our own via Excel. All these solutions are phenomenal. It all comes down to cost. I've been in manufacturing, I've been in startup, as a vendor and then as a client, and it's always the cost. Because I think there are so many of these options that are out there, and I think they're all phenomenal. And it's really, how quickly are you going to be able to get me money back in the bank that I wasn't going to be able to recoup by the power of just general, human capabilities?
If I said 3 months, would you buy from me?
I'd have to see more numbers. But that's good to know.
I can speak to something too. Hello, is this on? All right, yeah. I love that question because, customers want a painkiller, not just a vitamin, and they're thinking like, how is this going to make me money or save me money that's apparent? We haven't necessarily done the no cost upfront thing, but we certainly have had customers where we work with them to set a baseline on their equipment spend, and we've agreed that if we come in under that threshold, that we will share that savings, and that's actually resulted in several tens of thousands of dollars on single projects, and on larger projects it could certainly be more than that, and we found that that's been a really great way to work with some of our customers.
Well, just to answer that, because I think the biggest piece is, for me, one of the gentlemen on the panel in the beginning, when you're in supply chain, you get it. You've got 2 to maybe 20 people if you're at a startup, maybe larger if you're at a larger enterprise, but you all get it. It's the value chain. It's the rest of the organization that if I find someone like yourself with one of your companies, I know I need it. And then of course, it's always pitching internally, but it's the competing priorities of the marketing machine versus how you can actually improve costs across all the facets that each one of you are creating, you're building. I get it. It's that biggest piece is, I know we need it because my team is like at the end of their bandwidth or their intelligence, and ChatGPT isn't going to solve this stuff right now. But it's like what can be implemented that has longevity to it as well too. So.
Yep. All right. We have a question. Go ahead, Jens.
Yeah, so I was going to say, when we started off, a lot of our customers were asking for kind of the ROI and, how can we measure the value and so on. For us, it's gotten so much simpler. First of all, our price is $500 per user per month. So it's like the cost of it is very low. It takes about 20 minutes to learn it. And if you save a few hours per week on wasting your time on Google or other search tools, then it's a no-brainer. And our customers can get it in a few days.
And the way I look at it is every day you have work you do and activities, and then there's a line. There's above the line and below the line. When you start getting feedback, which I got from somebody a week ago that says, yeah, this is work I'm supposed to do for my customers, but I never do it. But now that I can do it in an hour, I do it now. Or instead of taking 10 hours, it takes an hour. You don't have to fight over, like we've been shocked that ROI is coming from time savings and that the customer and the ease by which it's doing it. So to your point, it depends how you define where the pain is, right? So that's how we're starting to change behavior.
All right, question here.
So I think most of us in the room have scars on our back about supply chains, and I'm not sure how current this is, but I think it's still current, probably, provenance of the supply. How can I be sure it's coming from where I think it's coming from? Because I'm going to have to certify that who the supplier is. And then I fly to China and I find out it's not coming from him. He's outsourcing it, and he's outsourcing it to somebody else. So provenance is always something I think that I have been concerned about. The other thing, honestly, working with a big Fortune, however big Flex is for a long time, when I think about AI, I wonder, can I trust this data? So I love entrepreneurs. Fantastic. I wish every one of you the best of luck.
I'll jump in.
Can we trust the data that you're pulling in front of us?
So I did not talk about myself or my co-founder's background at all, but I came from the semiconductor industry. I worked in an ITAR, trusted foundry environment, so definitely familiar with Flextronics. And the chip supply chain and just the sheer complexity and regulation around it, and sometimes no one foundry knows the full build. The provenance of materials is really in question. And the first project that we were funded from US Customs to work on was the provenance of steel materials. And when data is cryptographically signed, it's still not a silver bullet. And ChatGPT is, to your point, taught us the provenance of information in the software supply chain is just as important. But what it can do, especially when you're using semantic technology that links these patterns in time into these knowledge graphs, is you can't lie tomorrow that you lied today. So I'll give you a specific example. When we first signed our contract with US Customs, so the cryptographic signatures are tamper evident. So if you try to tamper with the claims you put in that document, if I said I'm Brian today, I can't go back on that. The signature will break. And so these patterns are built into the knowledge graph. And what gets really interesting, especially in provenance of something like steel, is in the US, say, we don't have any digital data set where we can query and actually know how much steel is coming in from, say, China. And a lot of times, paperwork is forged. It may look like it's coming from Mexico or Vietnam or another region. We may know that that region doesn't even have the capacity to produce that material. That is much easier to find in a knowledge graph. But the other thing it's really useful for is when the data is manufactured like the product, so to speak, and the tolerances and the distribution of the information within that data is too perfect. It's too good to be true. It cannot reflect reality. A human is not going to catch that error. So this is a way where I think having the provenance mathematically certified and digital and interconnected in these ways becomes really, really valuable, especially in, say, a chip supply chain.
I think another way to say it too is in AI, the model's only as good as the data you point it at. So the tighter the data and the tighter the data set that you choose to own, the better you can get your answer, which I think is what you're saying. Can't lie today, can't lie tomorrow. As the data shifts, if you cordon off that data and then apply the AI, you're going to get a better response.
We have one more set of showcases, so we'll have one more
Okay.
question from the
I
audience.
want to hold.
Okay, thank you. I think all of your solutions are actually wonderful, but I think they're also very focused on a very specific problem. I also come from a very small organization called Maersk, and what I saw over there, and also at different shipping lines I work for, that was we ended up with a system that looked like a monster because a problem, a part of the whole process of shipping was handled here, then the other part here, then the other part here. So my question to all of you is, how well can your solutions integrate with other solutions already in the market? How can you assure me that this will not be a hustle, an extra hustle for my team? Thank you.
I can speak a little to that in my niche industry, but we already integrate today with 5 different additional systems. And so while you saw me demoing our hardware device, our software and the way we're able to actually build those reportings around sustainability, we actually integrate with 5 other different systems across the supply chain, including sales systems, shipping systems, and additional warehousing systems that already exist. And so we kind of pull all of that data together into a single system to actually be able to follow and trace where those materials are going. And so to your point, that was definitely, when we started with the hardware, and we quickly realized this is just a small piece of like the whole picture.
I would say if you're not integrated with existing supply chain systems, you're doing it wrong. That's what interoperability means to commercial users.
All right, on that note, thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.